So that was a short clip, if you like, from Beethoven's Forellis. And the reason I played it is because of that particular name, Ludwig van Beethoven. I remember being taught how to pronounce it when I was young in Freetown. We were told that to pronounce certain things rightly showed how polished you were, how exposed you were. Things like restaurant instead of restaurant, that the average uncultured, in quote, person would pronounce it. Things like champagne instead of champagne. And all these were not African names, they were not African words. And we had Tchaikovsky, how to pronounce Tchaikovsky, how to pronounce a name like Sasha. We have grown to believe that the more you can localize, or you can really accentuate something the way the locals would, and it shows how exposed you are. Recently, I had a discussion with somebody. I sent someone an excerpt from my project, which is a book, and it's set in African society. It has all the African names. You had lots of African names, traditional African names, the towns where, and the places, the locations where are African names that existed. And this person, who's African, by the way, told me these things are difficult to pronounce. And I thought that was rather disingenuous because, like I said earlier, we've been taught how to pronounce certain things. We've been taught it's Paris, not Paris. We've been taught how to rightly pronounce Casillas instead of Casilla, Sevilla. But when it comes to ours, it's difficult, and people say they can't read African literature because the names are difficult to pronounce. If you can spell, if you can add words, if you are literate enough, shouldn't you be able to put two words together and create a sound out of it? I think it's just an excuse to relegate African literature to the background. I've never seen, and they expect us perhaps to, an African literature is literature enough if it is postmodern. It is nothing that draws from traditional African folklore, and I mean, it's considered not literature enough when it has all the elements of literature. I've never come across Borges modifying Latin names when he wants to write his works. I've never come across Iliad or Homer did not modify the names of the names of people when he's in his works. And so why do we have to modify? Why do we have to complain that it's difficult? I mean, if you're literate enough, don't be lazy and read it. Read the story. You probably would have learned a new name. I mean, some of the English names that we've taken in were probably not easy for us to pronounce, but we've seen them as the standard. And I think it is rather disingenuous. It's rather a false excuse, a false rage that people are claiming that African novels or African names are difficult to pronounce. I'm sorry, but that's what I think. So I will not modify any of my Afrocentric works. I will not modify the names. I will not modify what they are. I'll be true to the culture, because if we are not true to the culture, then people wouldn't know. We will just be shortchanging ourselves on how much of the culture it is we project, and I don't intend to do that. I intend to be true.